Hi y'all, it's good to see you. We're getting ready to get kicked off here real quick. Thank you all for coming for the panel. I enjoy the fact that we get to all get together and you get to learn from everybody. So what we're going to start off with, I'm going to have Jack start on this end and kind of go across. And everybody give your who I am, what we do, kind of talk, and then from there we'll go into questions and go from there. So get out of your way.
All right, I'm Jack Barlow, AmRamp. We're based out of Huntington and Indianapolis. I have 2 different franchises. I just got certified. That was a good certification. I got certified for aging in place specialist. What we do is we perform accessibility. We provide accessibility to our clients. A lot of times we'll have people in a nursing home calling, basically crying. They got to get out in 2 days, and I can't get into my house. I physically can't get in my house. So we can turn it around and get a ramp to them. We've done it as fast as the same day. So we provide wheelchair ramps, vertical platform lifts, stair lifts, really whatever somebody needs to get into a house and to be accessible inside the house. We do also sell or rent. So that's nice. So if somebody's hurt, they can just rent it. We'll come back when they're done with it and take it away.
My name is Meredith Marty, and I am here representing Select Home Health. We do a lot with Wyndmoor here, and we also service patients in the community. So our company just provides skilled nursing, physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, social work, and a home health aid to those who have a need. Everything that we do is under a doctor's plan of care, and we complement the caregivers or the staff that is helping said patient.
My name is Amanda Criswell. I'm the Executive Director for Select Senior Care. So even though we are one company, we do operate totally separate. We are not a package deal. Select Senior Care does non-medical, private duty, one-on-one care. So we send aides into the homes or the facilities. And it can be, most of the time it is private pay, but we also do Medicaid waiver, aid and attendant care, VA, aid and attendant care, and we also do work with long-term care insurance policies. One-on-one care, our minimum is 1 hour. We go all the way up to 24-hour care. We can do anything from assisting with bathing, hygiene, dressing, medication reminders, light housekeeping, laundry, transportation, errands, pet care, and the list goes on, but that's to name a few.
I am Camille Beeson. I'm the Executive Director here at Wyndmoor, Castleton. We are a licensed residential care facility, licensed for assisted living. We offer, well, I guess I'll go back. We're a private pay community, but we also accept the Medicaid waiver. I'm happy to answer questions about Medicaid waiver and what that all entails, because I know not everyone knows that. We offer a wide range of amenities for our residents, from social outings out in the community to bank runs, trips to the post office, regular lunch outings each week, to scheduled transportation for our residents. We also have 7-day-a-week activities that are pre-planned in the community every week, from bingo to church service, musicians weekly. We also have restaurant-style dining in our community, so breakfast, lunch, and dinner that's served for our residents here. And then we have nursing services that are available for our residents, so they're able to receive that care here in the community. They could come in and be completely independent, or they could gradually need things like medication management, showers, dressing, grooming, assistance with escorts. We're able to do all those things here in the community.
I am Leslie Piper Sharples, and I'm with Indiana Insurance Advisors. And this evening I'm representing a group which includes my husband, who's here in the audience this evening, Keith Sharples. He's looking around behind me. But we help folks with their Medicare insurance. We can help people that have aged into Medicare, 65 and older, folks that are on disability with Medicare. We can help folks that have Medicaid and Medicare, so we cover the gamut. We are a family-owned business. Our office is in Noblesville, but we're licensed in the entire state of Indiana and even some of the other states as well. Like I said, we're family-owned. I had my mom in my home for 17 years, so although I don't have Medicare myself, I have experienced it from both sides, so we try to help people like they are our family. There's never any charge for our services, and we are always happy to answer questions and help in your Medicare needs in any way that we can.
I'm Justin Shoemaker. I'm an attorney with Hunter Estate and Elder Law. I promise I'm not going to bill you every 10th of an hour just for sitting here. Our office, our main office is in Fishers, right up the road here on Allisonville, across from the airport. We also have a location in Rockville, Indiana, and we're going to open a new office up in Wabash, Indiana this spring. But we do estate planning and elder law, hence the name, with the focus on trying to really get to know the families, get to know what their goals and what their needs are, to try to navigate them through sometimes some difficulties and making some difficult decisions. A big focus of ours is trying to do estate planning with an emphasis on trying to protect assets. If the family is facing some long-term care costs, we do some Medicaid planning as part of our practice. And again, at the end of the day, our goal is to try to make sure that we can get to know the family, actually listen to what they have to say, and treat them as if they are one of our own. So thank everybody for coming out this evening, and look forward to having some questions.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Heinz Kosser with Care Patrol. Care Patrol is a senior placement service that helps families find independent living, assisted living, and assisted living memory care communities. I'm the local franchise owner that serves the Indianapolis market. We have about 150 franchise owners across about 37 states and growing. Founded by a social worker who is really a pioneer of this industry as assisted living started to develop, and found the need to help advocate for seniors who are often the most vulnerable population that's out there. Our goal is to help families find communities that best meet their current needs as well as their anticipated needs given perhaps their diagnoses, or if it's a couple, people are often aging at different rates and have different needs. So it's important to make recommendations that can accommodate not only their current needs but anticipated needs. It is important to ensure that communities that are recommended are in good standing in terms of the quality of care that they provide. Ultimately, that's what people are paying for, is to get good care provision and to maintain their dignity. So Care Patrol does not work with certain communities that have substandard care records. They're not part of our network. We actually check the state surveys. We provide those to the families. We meet with families in person to do a detailed assessment to understand their particular needs, not only their clinical needs, but their social preferences, their geographic preferences, and importantly, understand and educate them on ways to pay for assisted living. We tour with the families, we advocate for them on the tours, we do follow-ups with the families once they've made a decision on which community they are deciding to choose, to kind of see how the transition is going. And we're certified senior advisors, so we have training in all aspects of aging as it relates to the senior population. So during our interactions with families, we may refer them to many professionals that you see here on this panel and others that either will help with the transition and or something, for instance, we refer to attorneys quite a lot. People don't have advanced directives in place, especially when there's cognition challenges. Those create other issues if people don't address those gaps. So we want to make sure people are connected with professionals that kind of get their affairs in order and can help those transitions.
Good evening, Indianapolis. I'm the quiet one of the group. I'm Daryl Frazier. I'm with Crown Hill Cemetery and Funeral Home. So when Jim told me he was making this curing transitions, I'm going, well, what about the last transition from home to heaven? So that's where I help people. We help people pre-plan and make sure their arrangements are taken care of. I don't know if any of you have ever been to Crown Hill. When you Google what to do in Indianapolis, we are number 3 on the top 10 things to do. Come to a cemetery, and have fun. So, people are dying to get in there. I've heard that every time. So, again, it's very important. We've all personally lived through it. I have personal planning guides that we help people walk through that can determine what dress they would like to be buried in or viewed in. If they want to be buried with their glasses, their jewelry, things like that, what hymns they want at their service, and how they want their bodies, their last remains. So, as some of my panelists here, I sell real estate, but I sell your eternal real estate, where you're going to be resting. So, any questions? I'd love to meet with you after and help. Thanks.
I'm John Pasilio with Remax Ability Plus, and I deal with the living. And I do sell real estate for a living. And I have a specialist in seniors, senior real estate specialization. I think it's important, I think my parents, when you get to a certain point in life, you need extra help. You may need a list of the contractors that I would have access to that could help them through tweaking the house to make it better suited for their needs, to selling the home and be able to use those resources to other assets like this facility here. So we try to take a problem-solving approach and an advisor role, and basically put ourselves and our team in that position to help them make decisions and educated decisions. So thank you very much for coming. Happy to answer questions.
I have to give a little kudos to him because he worked with my in-laws and my mother and father-in-law, who I love dearly, but they are difficult, challenging people sometimes, as we all know sometimes. And they made him jump through so many hoops, and the man has the patience of Job. I'm going to tell you, it was amazing to watch. So I just stepped back and I just kept saying, okay, John can handle this. And I'm like thinking, I'm like worried that how he's going to react to it. And patience, just all the way through, smooth, easy transaction. Kept their emotions in check the whole way. It was amazing. So that's that CRS disease. Yeah. So it's like very. So thank you. Okay, so I am Renee Anderson with Caring Transitions, and you guys do all the services that are kind of like on the paper and a little bit of helping them move around. I help people with their stuff. A lot of times we're doing, like I said, the downsizing and relocation. So you have this house. You've been in this house for 40, 50 years. You've got all this stuff. They want to downsize. What are we going to do with our stuff? I will go have a one-on-one consultation with the client. I will make sure that what their goals and needs are, I find out what those are, and then I help them make a plan. A lot of times they have lots of options. We can do estate sales, we make donations, we have kids come in and take what they want. After they have picked what they want to take with them, we do space planning to help them get into the size of the home that they have chosen. We do everything from helping them liquidate anything that they have that they don't want, and also help them pass on things to people who they want to have them. After we've gone through, we'll do clean outs, so they'll have an empty home at the end so they can put it on the market and sell it. We also do lots of things like, we'll make the connections between, like I said, there's a service that they're looking for, we'll say, hey, and that's where the panel comes up. I always love to refer, we're working with these people one-on-one. I have a staff that comes in and does the estate sales who will sort and organize and go through these the things that the people have. A lot of times our clients, sometimes they're starting to have cognitive issues. They'll have things stashed all over the house. We're going through everything and pulling it out. I have literally trained W-2 background checked employees. They're our staff. They come, they're people who are really, the staff that I have hired on are regular people who are coming in and they want to do something to serve. They like getting together with the other gals who are working in a home and serve them. So it's a great staff. We like to work fast. We like to get things done for people and keep really our clients moving forward. We know it's an emotional time. You're letting go of things. They're looking at stuff. A lot of times I'm telling my clients, I'm saying, let's take a picture of it. Get the same memory because it gives you the same emotion. Because that you look at that picture of that, that thing that you want to keep, but you really don't have space for it. They'll look at that. They'll get the same emotion. I'm like, look, you can do things like that. I've framed pictures of homes. I've framed pictures of a piece of furniture that somebody wanted to take with them and put it in their room. So, and a lot of times, if we do have a client that has some cognitive issues and they're starting to have Alzheimer's and they're moving into a one-room, bedroom, we will go take a picture of their bedroom and we will set up that bedroom exactly the way it was. So the goal is to make the transition easy, and ours is to take that stress of moving. That's one of the top 3 stressors that people have to go through in their lifetime, and we like to make that as smooth as possible and take the stress and weigh it on. I do this over and over and over again. I like being busy and moving, so to me, taking that stress off of them who don't like to do that stuff makes me happy. I love seeing, and I've gotten so many people who have been like, oh my gosh, thank you. I mean, they're so appreciative of it, and I like to make that smooth for them. So it's like I said, it's a great service, and I love doing it, and I'm so glad we got one in Indy because we've only been around for a little over a year, and the demand is high, and people need it, and that's what stops a lot of people from making those jumps to get to the next step, because they're looking around going, I just can't part with my stuff. And we can make them feel good about parting with it. So, yeah. Any questions?
Questions? Anybody have questions for any of the ones so far? right now, you're right in the middle of your season, okay?
This is our,
Has anybody that's dealing with Medicare, you know, is figuring out which advantage and which number and letter and what have you? Kind of give a little bit of what you're dealing with right now.
Yeah.
Some of the new stuff that's coming out.
yeah, absolutely. This is the annual election period, which is between October 15th and December 7th. So this is the one time of year for most people when they can make those decisions on their insurance. And every year in September, the insurance companies will send out an annual notice of change, but most people just don't read it. It goes in the trash. And so you need to be checking for that annual notice of change or asking someone who can help you with that. I recommend independent agents, which is what I am, but someone who can look at all the different plans and see what's most suited for you. So those people who aren't looking at their notice of change may not realize that many of the prescription drug companies have doubled their premiums for next year. Or maybe they added a deductible that they don't realize is coming. So it's a good idea to look at all of the things that have changed in your life each year, new doctors, new health conditions, new prescriptions, and make sure that your insurance plan is still the most suited thing for you. And like I said, we are independent, there's never any charge for our services, but it's a good idea to take a look each year and make sure you know what's coming in January.
So, I'll stay in the middle and kind of work out. Justin, had I known about your world, you know, when I was dealing with all my family, it was not until my uncle and I actually found out what an elder attorney actually did, what the values are. There's a lot of things that need to do 5 years out, 3 years out. If you might touch on 5 years and 3 years, but also what's still available, you screwed that up. You know, and all of a sudden, like most of us, we go home for the holidays and come home going, oh my God, we got to do something. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point. A lot of times if families are all over the place, it's the holidays when you come back and you haven't seen mom or dad for several weeks or months, and it kind of hits you like, we need to act, we need to start taking some action or something like that. But, you know, you mentioned 5 years, 3 years, you know, whatever it might be. And one of the things that we're really trying to plan and doing like an asset protection plan for preparing for long-term care costs, there's certain types of planning that goes into place where we can do some things if we can get some transfers made and do potentially some trust planning. Essentially, if we can get something done 5 years out, we may not even have to report that for Medicaid purposes. And it wouldn't be a accountable resource for you. It would increase your chances of qualifying for some benefits that, you know, that could help pay for some of those long-term care costs and offset those. At the same time, if you haven't planned ahead, there's always a solution. There's always a solution. We call that our crisis planning. So if someone has not done, you know, had the foresight to really go in and think about this stuff, or a lot of times people just put it off. Nobody likes to think about what it's going to be like in a world that I'm not a part of, or that my health starts to fail, or whatever it might be, or that my loved one is in that situation. And so sometimes people just flat out put it off. You know, even if that happens and we're kind of on the doorstep of needing to go to a skilled nursing community or something to that effect, there's always a solution. Just maybe a little bit more scramble mode to get to that solution, and it may be a little bit more painful at that moment in time, but there's always something that can be done. And at the same time, I want to circle back and say there's one thing that I want to tell everybody. Have the difficult conversations. Have the difficult conversations. They're not fun, but, you know, talk with those close to you and really put the cards on the table and say, we need to start addressing some of these things. You know, let's get a plan put together. You may not know what that plan's supposed to look like or what it's going to include, but that's when you ask questions along the way. Talk to professionals in whatever sector of the market that they're going to help people with, or whatever their particular lane of service that they provide is. You know, be in contact with those people, but talk to your family, have the difficult conversations, and put the cards on the table. That's step one. It really is, and that's to me the biggest hurdle to get through. But that's.
My wife, if you're with her, she's an evangelist on this because we've dealt with her parents, my parents, my uncle, whatever. And so there's one of the things that she always says, if you don't know your parents' finances and you don't think it's your business, it's going to be your business, you better start figuring it out because.
Easier to be proactive, right, on that one. And sometimes, sometimes families, parents are guarded by that. It's a difficult thing for them to think they want to relinquish control, and that's a big fear for a lot of people. They think they're giving up power and control, and it doesn't have to be that message. It can be a message of, we're here to help. We want what's best for you, and again, that's a challenge, but it's a great point. It's good. In many cases, it's going to be your issue at some point, so you might as well take the bull by the horns.
There is a perception in the marketplace, because I know I had it, and I hear it all the time, that I have to spend down all my money before I have to, maybe I need to get a divorce to protect my assets. None of that's necessary,
And I know that there are people out there that say, let's have a legal separation or divorce in order to protect assets. That's one thing I'm kind of proud to say in our office we will refuse to do. I'm not going to look somebody in the eye who's been married 65 years and say, you guys need to have a separation or divorce so you can protect assets. There are other ways to do it. We kind of say even if no planning has been done and both spouses are part of the equation, if we're planning even in crisis mode for Medicaid, we can probably still protect, I'm going to say probably since we're videoed, no guarantees here, hypothetically, we could probably still protect, in essence, maybe around 90% of the family's assets, depending on how they're structured. That's a big part of it. So there is always a solution.
If they won't talk about them, at least let them tell you where the paperwork is.
Yeah.
We find it all over the place.
So I've got a couple questions about Medicare. I used to do it years ago. But for dual eligibles, does the Advantage plan still not work well with Medicaid?
It does work well with Medicaid.
So is there a special plan for dual eligibles, or do just your basic Advantage plan work well?
Yeah, there are multiple companies who have plans designed for dual eligible folks who have Medicare and Medicaid.
Okay.
And my experience is that those are working really well. I had maybe heard some things in the past that maybe there wasn't quite the melding that there is now, but there's been a focus on those folks to try to help provide them with even more of the resources that they need to stay healthier and starting at the beginning with the most basics of food and different things to help get them to a healthier place. And those plans are working much more seamlessly now.
Yeah, I know the co-pays weren't working out well with Medicaid reimbursement. And then secondly, if you go on to Medicaid mid-year, are you able to sign up, or do you have to wait till, I know there's usually like 3 times to get in at age in and open enrollment, and if you lose coverage, but if you go on to Medicaid and say, May, can you switch over to a dual eligible or an Advantage or a beneficial Medicaid friendly plan?
Yeah, absolutely, and that's a great question. Yeah, so if someone has Medicaid, if they have Medicare and Medicaid, then they have a special election period.
Okay.
So at 3 times during the year, the first 3 quarters of the year, they can switch 1 time during that quarter, and it'll be effective the next month. And
Say that one more time.
So during the first 3 quarters of the year, so
Okay.
in the first quarter, they can choose to switch 1 time in each quarter
Okay.
even, but it would be effective the following month. If someone had Medicare and Medicaid, they chose to switch in February, it would be effective in March. The
Okay.
first day of March, right.
So open enrollment, a guarantee issue, all that stuff.
Open enrollment affects them only that in the last 3 months of the
Right.
year. If they make a change, it's effective
I guess same
January.
qualifications.
January 1st. Well, it's effective January 1st, but yeah, absolutely. And then there are other special election periods if someone moves out of the county or service area. There's also a special election period.
So, again, while we're on this, I've got clients with Humana and Aetna, and they're just not getting any rehab. They're getting just, so if I was to get somebody who recently went on to Medicaid, would it be advantageous to get them out of certain plans? Is there better plans to gravitate toward that are more Medicaid friendly? Because obviously a few of them that I'm hearing about lately are just awful.
Well, I tell folks to look at your shoes. Your shoes are individual. I have little tiny shoes. No one wants to wear mine home. Your health care is as individual or more so than your shoes. And so it's important to look at all the things that make up your health care, your doctors, your prescriptions, and those things. And so some companies and some plans are more suited for some people than others. And there are always choices. You know, if someone is in something that's not fitting them well, then there are choices. And that's why I recommend the independent agent, so they can look at all different things. But yeah, so there are some companies that suit some people better than others. And so I would advise them to take a look and maybe try something else that would maybe be more suited for them. And because they have choices and they have opportunities to change.
Yeah, with a free look, right? It's worth it.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a great opportunity for them to find something else that will fit them better.
Yeah, just had a lot of troubles with rehab and Humana and Aetna. You guys had issues to where they're just in for 2 days and out and not.
Leslie, do you get a lot of folks that are coming to you not knowing what their plan even covers?
Yeah, I have a lot of people that come to me and they don't even know what their insurance is.
Exactly, and I think that's part of the issue. So if anything, helping them learn what they're signing up for and the benefits that they're losing out on from traditional Medicare. I mean, I'm paying into Medicare right now too, right? Everybody pays into Medicare. So I think these insurance companies are getting more aggressive, which is how our clients are ending up on these plans, but nothing covers senior care like Medicare does.
Yeah.
Bottom line.
Yeah. It's important to find someone that they trust to help them. It's like my car, you know, I drive my car, I know it has spark plugs and things, but I don't know how it works inside. But I have a mechanic.
That's
that I
such a
trust,
good analogy,
you know?
yes.
So your insurance agent is like the mechanic for your insurance. They know we have to test every year and retest with every company that we work for. So that insurance agent is like the mechanic for your car. They can help them get into the most suited thing.
Yeah. Yes, it's worth them taking a look at something else.
And there's no charge for, what other industry can you get help like that and there's no charge for the services? You know, so.
Did you have a question? All right, so I'm going to go to the ladies over here with the.
We would love to talk more.
In-home,
Thank you.
in-home health. And really all three of you get involved in this. We have, one's health, one's medical, one's non-medical, and now I'm confused which we're.
Medical.
Okay, medical, okay. And you guys do a lot of different things. You can help people stay in their homes longer. You can help them stay in independent living longer. You can help them stay in assisted living longer. You want to kind of go a little bit your world, because I think a lot of people don't really understand what you all can do.
Of course. How many of you in this room know what the difference between home health and outpatient therapy is? Yeah? Okay. Good. Well, just a brief spiel. If a person has traditional Medicare, Medicare Part A is going to cover a hospital stay and home health care. One can't be in the hospital and have home health care, essentially. Medicare Part B is medical insurance or hospital or doctor's offices, and it also covers outpatient therapy. Correct me if I'm wrong. Am I doing well?
Right. Yeah, you're doing great.
And then Medicare Part D is your prescription, and then Medicare Part C is where you can possibly get a
Medicare Advantage.
Medicare Advantage plan. God, I nailed it. Anyways, home health is skilled nursing, physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, social worker, and home health aide in whatever that person defines as home. So that's how we are allowed to come into community setting because that is their home. A couple key players, everything we do must be under a physician's plan of care. So I can't just say, hey Amanda, I think you need home health today, and sign her up on services. There has to be a true need for it, which there isn't always, so that's a different story. The other thing, a person must be homebound. Medicare's guidelines for homebound are interpreted very differently by a lot of different people. The exact verbiage is you may leave home for medical treatment and infrequent absences for non-medical reasons like religious services. It's got to be a taxing and frequent event. A lot of people interpret that very differently, but long story short, our goal is to be an extension of what was done in the hospital for whatever ended that person there, whether it was a stroke, whether it was a fractured hip, just pneumonia, we are an extension of what the team there has already started to help that person recover. So we come into the home and continue those services. We always tell our clients up front, you should expect whatever disciplines are ordered by that doctor 2 to 3 times a week, 3 being the most, 45 minutes to an hour for each visit. So we are not meant, home health is not meant to be a long-term solution. Medicare and insurance doesn't allow that. So our typical certification is 4 to 6 weeks. At the beginning of that certification period, our clinicians set goals with that patient. At the end of that certification period, if there's still room to grow in those goals, let's go again and try and meet those goals. If those goals have been met and plateaued, it's time to start thinking about outpatient therapy because the homebound need is not met anymore. So what makes us a little bit different, we are locally owned and operated. Registered nurse, a physical therapist, and an occupational therapist started 9 years ago in their garage. We have graduated from the garage. We have full houses now, so that's awesome. And I always like to say the communication from our team really sets us apart. I am on every email, whether I am handling, coordinating, kind of quarterbacking that patient's care or not. So I can always tell you what's going on with somebody, whether I've been with them from the get-go or not. We also have some unique specialties just from listening to partners like Camille here at Wyndmoor. We have a certified wound care specialist. So our certified wound care specialist has the same certification as a podiatrist. So they can manage those wounds, and obviously if it gets to the point where it's beyond our scope of care, we can work with visiting podiatrists or a wound care center to help meet that need as well. We have a lymphedema therapist who can come in and do edema wrappings and help with swelling on feet and ankles. And then we also have vestibular therapy, which is essentially a lot of seniors have an ataxic gait, an off gait, balance is a little off, so we can come in and work specifically with programming that targets the gaze, and I'm not an expert on that, but that's what
Has something to do with the crystals in their ears and head.
So, other than that, I'm glad I was able to talk, and Amanda, our company has grown since then to open select senior care because Medicare doesn't recognize laundry, meal prep, transportation, housework, essentially, as a billable service. So our clinicians kept getting asked to stay, and we were like, we can't do that. So instead of giving the business away, we decided to open our non-medical side of our company, and our social worker kind of bridges the gap between that, and Amanda can talk more about the social worker.
Yeah. So myself and her name's Jessica, our social worker. We are the only two that actually meet with the families right now and sit down and do, it's like a customized assessment. So the families tell us, we kind of ask a lot of detailed questions, what's going on, what are the struggles at home with mom or dad or grandma, grandpa, whoever it is, and we try to find out and obviously maximize the finances while they're at home, which again, that can be an independent living facility, assisted living facility. A lot of people think assisted living facilities can do everything all hours of the day, and they can't. They just don't have the staffing to do it. So a lot of assisted living facilities will partner with us. So if they're teetering on the fence of potentially going to long-term care and they're at a level 4 where they're paying the highest level of care, what if we bring in non-medical services for that one-on-one care, maybe 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the evening. So once an aide comes in, we help mom to get up, get dressed, maybe a reminder to take her meds, has a good breakfast, whatever that case may be. She's good for the day. She can go down to the dining hall, go to activities, but then at night she struggles to get in bed, and she has sundowners or whatever that case may be. So that's what we do. We do anything from 1 hour all the way up to 24-hour care. I do pay somebody to be on call 24/7, so you don't get an automated message, you actually get a live person. There's no prompts or anything like that. Our pricing is actually in our brochures, which I laid up there if anybody's curious. You don't have to call us and ask us. It's a flat rate. We do 1 hour, and then we do 2 to 3 consecutive hours, and then we go all the way up to 4 or more hours, which covers 24-hour care. For the aides, they are our employees as well, just like Caring Transition says. We do background screens, national background screens, drug screens, motor vehicle check, valid driver's license, valid auto insurance. We put them through training. We have a hospital bed. We show them how to transfer, and if they don't, we don't require that they have experience. We try to teach them on the job. It is very hard in this industry to find good, caring, quality people. We're all fighting for the same people. Service area is all of central Indiana. I'd already talked about kind of the customized assessments and then how we hold the caregivers accountable. I know a lot of people always have this question. We have an app that the caregivers have to download when they arrive at the client's home, and there's a 0-mile radius geofence on it. So it will not allow them to clock in or clock out unless they're physically on the premise of the property. And then we have to get a signature on the phone to authorize that they had been there. And that's how they clock in and out. So it just holds them accountable. They can't just clock, in and out from, if they walk in the front door of the facility, they have to, mileage wise or feet wise, they have to go so far and be right outside their door before they can clock in. So that's how we kind of hold them accountable.
I do just want to add too, I think all of us up here are gonna touch on that. These are all items that are meant to give you the education and knowledge that you need to set whoever you're here for tonight up for the best possible future that they have, and that we're not all sellers. We are all in this to try and help our seniors find the best possible resources out there. And I think I might be the youngest one up here, but I'm so passionate about it because my granddad is much wiser. But my granddad is fighting the same challenges that I'm sure all the people you're here for are, and I can't get him to listen to me. So I'm learning every day how we can make our seniors understand what's going on and how not to get taken advantage of.
Well, since Jack's the youngest, I'll let you tell more about
Yeah, he's wise.
Yeah, and how you can help people stay in their homes and whatever else.
And to touch on that, my father, I've not always been in this industry. My father got Parkinson's so bad he couldn't move. And quite honestly, we just thought one nursing home's the same as another. And legally, I can't tell you what happened to him, but it was not good. So I appreciate when you come and try to learn and try to see what can help people. That's part of what I get a joy out of, being able to help seniors, because I was not able to help my dad as well as I should have, because I didn't know about a lot of this that happens now. So just a side note, I appreciate you learning and trying to take care of people. One of the things we do that's nice is a lot of people want to stay in their home. I mean, let's be honest, they want to stay in their home as long as they can. But we've seen people that you're scared to death when they start to try and walk up and down the stairs. I mean, you just hold your breath, and the kids are scared every day. So we can really take care of a lot of that for them. A ramp is something they'll probably think that they don't need until they fall. That's usually when I get a call, is once they fall in. It's hard to get somebody to say you need help before something happens, but if you can do it, it's really best and really wise to do that. Not only do we do ramps and mobility things, but we'll also go into the house and take a look at the house. I mean, and it's things you don't really think of. Doorknobs. Eventually, if you live long enough, nobody can open a doorknob. I mean, it's just not going to happen eventually. So levers on doors. It's just a silly little thing, but that's really important. If you get somebody that you can tell that's going to get into a wheelchair soon, check the door widths. Make sure they can get a wheelchair through their doors. New houses, you can pretty much do that. They're built for that. But older houses, You know, I've seen doors that are 24 inches or less. A wheelchair, even a small wheelchair wouldn't fit through it. So those are things just to look ahead for, because you don't want to do it, almost with all of us, you don't want to do it afterwards. You know, you want to have that conversation ahead of time. You want to make the house accessible while they can still move around and not wait till it has to be done. You know, even like in the kitchens, this is something I never thought about till the training. A lot of people take one cabinet out of their kitchen. People can roll their wheelchair up underneath their cabinet. They can sit up there, they can do work on the cabinet. They can pull it back out, and you can actually put baskets if you want or something and slide it back in. So those are just things that you don't think about, never thought about, but it really comes in handy. Bathrooms especially, that kind of stuff. Bathrooms are very, very important to be able to grab bars. We have what we call a super pole that we use. It's just a pole that works with just pressure, tension, that will go to your rafter, and it moves around. So they can not only just use it for the toilet or the commode, or they can turn it and then they can actually get in the shower. They can turn it again and it might go to the sink. So there's all kinds of things that we can do for people. We can do lifts, get people out of the bed for them. There's so many things that my dad had to go to the nursing home, that if I had known that, we could have had him stay at home for a lot longer.
Does the VA pay for any of that?
The VA?
Yeah.
Eventually.
And then is that something that you direct them how to get, or do they have to get it on their own, or?
Yeah, there's some grants that are out there that I can direct them to. They have to do it themselves,
Okay.
but I can direct it to them. I can help them fill it out. I have people that I know that work with the VA that I can even send it to them, and they'll help them. They'll walk them through it. VA is good at taking care of people. It's just a matter of it's not timely.
What kind of amounts could you expect from the VA?
Well, on ramps, they've covered ramps before. I mean, they've completely covered them for
What about bathroom remodels, or?
bathroom remodels. I'll be honest with you on that. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how much they'll do it. I think it's per person, and you have to go through different grants. There are different kinds of grants available, but one's called a HISA grant, H-I-S-A, and any veteran can get on and just fill it out. You don't have to be working through somebody or anything else. It's HISA, HISA grant, and then what happens is they'll need 2 quotes. And from my understanding, it doesn't have. The veterans don't always go to the least expensive quote. They'll ask you which one you want, and they'll cover whichever one you want.
Okay.
Would you go ahead and tell one part about your story that's unique, and the fact that your whole company is designed to fund another?
Yeah, it's kind of neat. I love doing this because people need it. They'll call me up crying. I mean, they literally are crying. I can't get into my house. Can you help me? And so that's rewarding. But then it's also a double bonus, I guess you could say. I tell them now, just so you know, my franchise is owned by a nonprofit corporation. It's called Pathfinder Services out of northern Indiana. And what we do is we have group homes throughout all of northern Indiana for the mentally handicapped. The Medicare and Medicaid, they don't pay enough to keep those group homes open. So we are constantly doing fundraisers. One of the fundraisers is next Thursday on Thanksgiving. We have probably about 6,000 to 7,000 people run in what we call a turkey trot to raise money. And that sounds like a lot of people, and it really sounds like a lot when we only have 16,000 in the whole city. So we have people come from all over to be in it. That's just to raise money for the group homes. But the reason why I say that is that's what my company does. My company is designed, AMRAMP is designed to make money for Pathfinders. So all of my profit goes back into paying for the group homes. So when I rent a ramp to somebody or I sell a ramp to somebody, there's money going to help the people stay in the group homes. We also just started something where we have a factory where we employ the mentally handicapped. That our clients actually come to work. That they stay in our homes, but then we bust them to work, and they come in and do work in our factory. And we've just started selling candles now. They're making candles, and the labels will have the person's name on them that made it, and what kind of candle that they like. So that's another way that we raise money for the clients.
Well, thanks, Jack. Camille, I have a full confession that this is one of my home places because my uncle's like them, about 4 doors down there.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I see Camille a lot. You guys just went to Medicaid waiver. I'm sure that a lot of people aren't aware of how that stuff works and different things with this community. One thing I will tell you, I picked this community, one, because of the geographic location, but also, if you look out these windows out here, you don't see, there's this absolutely gorgeous grounds and gardens and stuff. And so, something you don't find every day, so.
So I'll touch on the gardens briefly, because Joe is, he's an avid gardener. He's our avid gardener along with Charles, another one of our residents. So we do have an excellent gardening club at our community, and our residents are very passionate about that. They've done amazing things. It definitely is near and dear to their heart, and ours as well, just because it is such a special thing that not every community has. I mean, some do, but maybe that heart isn't there like it is here. So if you walk out, you'll see kind of our gardening wall as well, and we always, every year they honor a resident, and so it's very neat. You know, when it comes to the Medicaid waiver, yeah, that's a new thing for this community. We never previously were a waiver community, and that just went into effect in July. It certainly makes us unique. It's very difficult to find a waiver community in the Indianapolis market. Typically they can be full. Some have various expectations on being able to move in. They only take so many residents on waiver. We don't have those set guidelines when it comes to numbers. We're fully licensed to be, all of our residents could be on the waiver. So really it's been a blessing in disguise for this community. I have right now even still over 20 residents in the process who are existing residents who are working on getting on the waiver. And these are residents who, you know, financially wouldn't have been able to add additional care services because the cost of senior living it's expensive. It's outrageous. You know, if you really look at it, not everyone plans for that kind of future, thinking senior living is going to cost me $3,000, $4,000 plus in a month. So with that Medicaid waiver, you could add those care services, you could financially stay in a community, and Medicaid waiver kicks in to reimburse the community. So our waiver residents, for example, pay a liability, which is $771 a month, and then they have a possible upcharge based on their apartment size, but it still falls into where their income is. So if they have an income of $1,000 or $1,200 or even $800 or $900, they're able to live in a nice senior community, have all those amenities of a senior community, have that social environment and those care needs, and it be affordable for them. And then on our end, you know, we do the reimbursement through Medicaid. So there's obviously steps in that process, and we have local partners between, you know, elder laws or Medicaid specialists that we work with, and we refer our families to, or prospective families to help. Because obviously Medicaid is not a simple process. I am not the Medicaid guru, don't get me wrong, excuse me. I've learned a lot in these few short months, so I'm getting there certainly, but we do have others that we work with our families, and we have them sit down to really truly explain, you know, how to apply for Medicaid. They help them with actually applying for Medicaid. And then there's also, in addition to the Medicaid process, you have SACOA that you also have to work with to get approved for the waiver. So there's kind of a two-piece process with that whole waiver. But like I said, it's definitely been a huge added benefit for our residents and for the community. We work very closely with SACOA when it comes to other residents moving into the community from the outside, and then like I said, those other specialists that we work with too, they're Medicaid specialists. So yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone may have about, you know, that Medicaid process or about our senior community. But it's definitely been a huge added benefit.
I was sitting there thinking, as Jack was talking, I was sitting there thinking he needed to know you, you know, a while back. So
Yeah.
I had no idea that people did what you do, okay? But I think that maybe most people don't. So please explain in a little bit more detail what you guys are really doing and how you can help people.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I think I definitely agree with, I think it was you, Meredith, that mentioned, you know, most people want to stay in their homes. And that's absolutely true. So I guess in a way what we help families with is the necessary evil of what's the alternative options when it's no longer safe for them to be in their homes. They may not be able to afford the one-on-one care. Or if, even if they qualify for Medicare waiver, you're not going to get enough hours for potentially to be safe in your environment. So you need to consider a different supportive environment where you have 24/7 supervision. You don't get the one-on-one care, but you can be on a care plan to get the necessary care, and then access to socialization. One of the things that seniors often struggle with in their homes is access to socialization, because their network is shrinking, as they start using their driving privileges, as their people are starting to, join their Crown Hill and those type of places. So really what we're there to help families navigate those options for them based on their unique needs. Now, one of the key things, there's several key things that differentiate communities. It's not only the care quality, but also the care capabilities. So not every community can handle certain diabetic care, they cannot handle certain specialty diets, they cannot handle certain physical disabilities such as two-person assist, Hoyer lift, hand-to-mouth feeding. There's many things that differentiate care environments. So, and we also want to advocate for people to live in a less restricted environment, including staying in their home. And we would connect them with resources if it's not an issue for them to stay in the home or the circumstances prevail. But having said that, our goal is also to educate people that assisted living has come a long way. There are quite a few communities, and we're seeing an increasing trend, that communities in assisted living will be advocating to keep people longer and provide a higher level of care than traditionally was, because no one needs to be in a nursing home unless there's a clinical need for you to be there. Or it's a financial issue, and you talked about the options of Medicaid waiver. There's not a whole lot. The reimbursement rates from the government are lower than private pay. It becomes an economic decision for a lot of communities to, do they or don't they? And there's not enough waiver slots anyway for everyone to get them. So we're there to try and help them navigate the options. Definitely advocate for them to live in the least restrictive environment. So assisted living before nursing home, and certainly when it comes to an extension to that would be people that have cognitive impairments. And I'm sure, Camille, I know this would be a HIPAA violation, you wouldn't be able to tell a number, but I'm going to guess that there's 40 to 50% of people that live in assisted living have some form of cognitive impairment or a dementia diagnosis. But it doesn't mean that they're not safe to live in assisted living as opposed to in a memory care setting. So it's all about behaviors, and those are the things that we try and understand. Unfortunately, there a lot of healthcare practitioners don't understand these settings and what care they can provide and what conditions warrant a certain care setting over another. So when it comes to dementia care, for instance, you only need that if certain behaviors are evident and or imminently evident based on recent behaviors that are not yet clinically documented. But wondering if they're unable to really express their needs, unable to express if they're feeling pain, if they can make safe choices of the menu, because you have to do all those things in assisted living, if they're gotten to a point where they have more pronounced confusion, then they have lucid moments, things like that where they're no longer safe to really let people know what they're needing. So those are the two key veins that we try and focus is get people into the least restrictive environment. We can provide options that you can graduate to should it become necessary. People are often wanting to say, well, we want a place that has skilled nursing on campus too, in case, that there's going to be pros and cons of everyone's needs, every care setting. So that's kind of what we do, is know the options. Social preferences, this is often the thing that helps narrowing down options for families, because you might have someone that is an avid gardener, and you may have someone that is wanting to be on the ground floor. So, they want a balcony, they have a pet, they might smoke, there's lots of things, they might still drive, they want a carport. There's a lot of things that go into the decision. It's not just saying, well, here's a list of 10, 15, 20 places, which is going to create a lot more stress in the family than having something that's more targeted and in line with what their financial means are. I don't think we have a long-term care insurance
Yeah, I was gonna
specialist
ask
here.
if anybody does that.
Not on this one.
No,
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I run out of
I'm
room on
licensed
seats,
for it.
you know.
No, that's
Oh,
fine.
you can
So,
do it, yeah. So-
so one of the things traditionally, what has happened, people that have had long-term care insurance policies will often try to maximize the value of the face value of the policy. And that's probably going to be changing the more long-term care carriers are going to do more frequent audits on whether or not people are still justifying their policy. So with that said, knowing that that's coming and knowing what the carriers are going to be moving towards, it might be advisable to say, don't try and max it out. Could you afford this if your policy didn't pay anymore? And if not, then you get to the point where if that risk materializes, you would have to then go through this process again. So there's a lot of things that come into the appropriate recommendations for everyone's unique needs and challenges.
I think that, I know myself, our family basically, I've heard of families that plan all this stuff out way out ahead. I've never met one, but I've heard of them, Our family basically did denial and arguments and then basically pretended it didn't exist. And then all of a sudden there's a crisis, we had to deal with it that day. And then you're out trying to drive to, what you do is take a lot of that stress off. I love that, so.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we're, probably everyone in this room, can attest to some crisis that has come up in their lives. And in hindsight, could you have been more proactive to do things and have things in place? So we're dealing with a lot of crisis situations, people that are in rehab getting discharged in 2 days' time because they filed for an extension, because we know there's certain challenges with Medicare and there's, challenges, in terms of it seems as though the care period is getting shorter, so people are in a panic.
Yeah.
They may not be progressing to a point where they're able to go home safely. They're needing an alternate solution, whether it is respite care, which would be a short-term stay in the community. So there's a lot of stressors there, and it gets exacerbated specifically when the reality hits home. When people and often come. This is our busy period too, because people are coming for holidays and they're starting to see. Oh my goodness, and they can smell the soiled laundry, they can see the scratches on the cars, they can see the mails not being opened. Things like that are telltale signs that they're often not really seeing. So people are in a crisis mode. How do we find a safe option? And there's a myriad of options out there, but you also need to maintain your dignity and respect in the quality of care you receive, and at least be subjected to an environment that's socially conducive to your care needs and your cognitive capacities.
Well, speaking of that segued really nicely into the planning ahead. I was going to say, Daryl,
Yes.
when we, when you and I met the other day, you were talking about, and it just makes so much sense. I could see where really your target a lot of times. Some people are going to find you because they have to find you. They have no choice. But the ones that just went through the process of dealing with the crisis mode of doing it, I would think those would be the ones that really need to be talking to you about planning ahead so that their kids don't have to do it and that they're, whatever.
That's a great transition, thank you. I was hoping I'd get a chance to speak. I sent my Grim Reaper suit to the cleaners, so I was hoping somebody would call on me tonight, so. Yeah, Justin hit the nail on the head. It's the most difficult conversation, How do you want to transition with dignity into that last stage? And that's what we help people do. 25 years ago, I was thrown into this position because I had to do this for my mother in Dayton, Ohio. So 4th of July weekend, my little kids are running around and we're going to the family picnic, and I'm thinking hot dogs, fireworks, things like that, maybe in a couple adult beverages later. And I get a phone call saying, Mom's in the hospital. So I get everything reorganized, send my wife and kids off to the picnic, and I go to the hospital, Miami Valley Hospital. I'm there in 45 minutes. My mom's already passed with a brain aneurysm. 54, perfect health, nothing wrong with her. Beautiful lady, and my best friend on this earth. So our father had already was deceased. I'm the oldest of 3 boys, so guess who was put into that situation? I'm making these plans. While I'm grieving, I'm in shock, I'm crying, I'm upset, I'm thinking about my wife and what are my little kids doing running around, and hot dogs, fireworks, and a couple adult beverages later, so I'm not in the right frame of mind. So by doing that, by going and meeting with someone and having that conversation, I know Thanksgiving's coming up next week, so it's not going to be dinner conversation. You're going to be talking about what the Colts are doing on TV and things like that. But when you have that opportunity, sit down and talk about that. I'm happy to give you one of these planning guides. It just organizes it for you. In the state of Indiana, the coroner wants to know where your father was born. So my kids are over in Dayton now. I live here with my wife in Irvington. They let me stay. They didn't build the wall yet, so I don't have to go back to Ohio. So if I ask my children, my dad was already deceased before they were born. My mom was deceased. They were tiny. They wouldn't know where my dad was born at. They wouldn't know those questions, and that's what's required on the death certificate here in Indiana. The other one is, where's my mom's maiden name and where was she born? They would have no idea of that information. So before the coroner signs off that, puts his raised seal on that, that has to be put down. You have to show where you came from. The other thing is we're all eligible for Social Security benefits. So we have the number, how to do that, all the process there, or Justin can sure help you do that, because there's $255 available to all of us in this room. If we're U.S. citizens born here or became a citizen. Now, I'm the oldest at the table. I'm 59 years old. They've been talking about raising that for 59 years. Now it's only $255 still. But unfortunately, so many of those go unclaimed every year. So the other thing is we talk about credit life on your credit cards. When that bill comes in, I told my boys, I said, the day before God's calling me home, let's go to Lowe's and we'll pick out the biggest mowers they have. I'm going to put it on my Lowe's card, and then when Dad's gone, you just send in a copy of the death certificate in his way. There we go, guys. How to beat the system, right, Justin? So, the other thing we counsel people on assets. TOD. Go into the bank, the teller can change that over. Your personal account, your checking, your savings, things like that, because I lived this through my mom. The state of Ohio is a probate state just like Indiana is. My mom's assets, just for simple math, for me, totaled $100,000. Ohio charged us 7% of that to send those assets back to me and my brothers. So they took $7,000 right off the top. With Justin's help, you can avoid those things. Or just by retitling those, list your children, put TOD or paid on death for your liquid assets. So transfer on death or paid on death. So we just help with that transition. It's all going to happen to us sometime, folks. Unless you're Methuselah, who lived to 969 years old, or you're Ponce de Leon, who found the Fountain of Youth, it's going to happen. So I don't envy it also. I don't want it to happen, but I'm going to be planning for it. You may have seen some of the commercials going around. I watch the news at 6 o'clock in the morning, and you see these ones, the Dignity commercials. Crown Hill and all of our affiliates formed with a company called Dignity about 2 years ago. Dignity owns 6,000 funeral homes and cemeteries throughout the United States. So by making that affiliation, we have national transferability. So if you're like me, let's pick on Daryl again. I'm the Grim Reaper here. I live here in Indianapolis because my wife graduated at Ben Davis and went to IU and all that. So, but if I want to be buried back in Columbus, Ohio, where my heart is, at Ohio State University, they can transfer all my assets to the facility in Columbus, Ohio at no cost to my family. My cost, the cost in my industry goes up 20% every year. Dying is expensive. 20% a year. My costs double every 5 years. Let's do the math. It's expensive. So do it now. Lock it in. Hopefully you never need it. We tell everyone, we'll hold your reservations. You don't have to check in anytime soon. And it just allows you to do that. There's so many choices. Traditional ground burial, mausoleums are probably the most popular now. And it's actually less expensive than traditional, or you can do cremation. Anything that goes in the ground in the state of Indiana, Ohio, or 48 other continental states, you have to have a vault. It's a concrete structure that supports the earth. That's a $2,000 additional expense. Most people aren't aware of that. You go in the wall, where I'm going with me and all my friends and everything, is like a big condominium. You don't need a vault. You don't need a marker. It's included, so we can help you save money. So
States don't.
Alaska and Hawaii right now. Yeah. I'm sorry, and Kentucky and Tennessee if you live down there. You can dig a hole in Kentucky and throw it.
You have another booklet?
I'd be happy to leave this one for you to get, or you could take one of my information and we'll send you one. So, this is a great booklet. So the commercials that are going around, it has Glory on the dance floor. I don't know if you guys have seen it. It's a disco at Crown Hill. Our celebration hall holds 450 people. I told my wife, I want Earth, Wind, and Fire to come and play at my celebration of life. We're having a party. I don't want the somber crying. We always use Amazing Grace in my industry because no one writes down what they want to have happen. It's a beautiful song. I love it in the bagpipes. Last month, a gentleman from Scotland passed away. Great, we had the kilts on, everything. I'm Scottish descent. He bought everybody a shot of single malt scotch and we toasted him to the pearly gates. We can make it happen. There's another commercial going around, The Last Ride it's called, and it's the hearse with 4 Indy cars going around the track for one more ride. We can make it happen. Now I'm biased, I go to work there every day. The Crown is the highest point in Marion County where Sir William Riley, the poet, is buried. Beautiful up there. I go up there, have my lunch. It's really, really nice. We have almost 600 acres in this park. We have 200 species of trees. Section 13 is where all the buckeye trees are. I know that by heart. So, 200 deer there. And all kinds. It's just beautiful. It's so peaceful. So you talk about gardening and everything. I have 400 acres that haven't been used out there for ground space. We could have all kinds of gardens. The only cemetery in the world to have 3 national cemeteries inside of it. We have one from 1863 from the Civil War. There was a U.S. Army base here for the North, and then they had Confederate prison camp. So when those people started dying, they needed a place to bury them. So Crown Hill was the first cemetery for Confederate soldiers here in Indiana. We have the other cemetery, the Field of Valor, as the eternal flame, just like Arlington. Everything is set up similar. All the markers for all 5 branches, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, and Coast Guard. And they are all buried there with honors. That's what this book does. We honor our veterans. Those men and women have paid a service to our country. They get honor guard, they get the 21-gun salute, the family gets presented the folded flag. We help them do that. We will get their DD-214, their discharge papers, and help them get all that done for them. We take them through that process. Yes, sir.
I have a burning question. What's the status of John Dillinger?
John Dillinger is staying interned. We are not digging him up. Okay, turn off the camera. So money talks. Here's what happened. The History Channel came in, got with the family and said, we want to do a documentary of your uncle, all that stuff. And money talks. We're all greedy. We want to make more money. So they went and got a court order and said we would like him brought up so we can test the DNA, make sure it's him, all that, things like that. We, as Crown Hill, our attorney said, wait, that's going to disturb so many graves around there to exhume his body because the court order in 1936 required that there was 3 tons of concrete put on his grave. So to get in there and remove all that.
What would you check the DNA against?
Yeah, how do you do that?
Who has John Dillinger DNA?
The nieces and nephews that are left here surviving saying they're descendants of him, and that's what the History Channel was going to pay and pad their pockets. So once all that went away, it's kind of under the table now. So
it was fun to talk about.
It was great to talk about.
Got a lot of press on that.
Yeah.
John, we're going from one real estate to another real estate, so.
You're up, buddy.
That's great. Well, my business is much lower stress than anybody out there. After this discussion, of course.
You got a whole new perspective.
Especially yours. The discussions I have are meaningful for the people, and I enjoy stepping people through the logic of it. And sometimes, with the age of client we work with in the senior community, sometimes it's with the kids, and making those decisions. So you might have talked to them one day, and then they come over and talk to me the next. But really what it comes down to is you can put a sign out there at the corner of a roundabout, if you live in Hampton County, that says, we'll buy your house, cash for your house. You can sell your house that way, anybody can. Or you can hire somebody that is gonna look out for you and be your advocate. And sometimes I'll recommend that they tear some of Jack's good work out. Jack builds the ramps, he makes the big doors, and sometimes they open automatically, and, and some of the lifts, they go up and down the stairs. And I hope they repurpose those. But what we try to do is we try to take a logical angle to it. So here's the market, this is how you're gonna maximize your value, if that's your goal. If it's to sell it quickly, there are ways to do that without going to the corner and pulling the number off the sign. But we do sit down and we do a consultation, just like the rest of you guys do. There are a lot of good folks that I've heard great stories up here about that, and we do the same thing. And our goal is to do the right thing at the end of the day. A lot of times we'll partner up. You want to maximize your value? I have a decorator, a stager. I have carrying transitions I can lean on because their house is cluttered and they have way too much stuff. By the way, you can get more money if you have an estate sale. You can get a better value for your product that way, as opposed to a garage sale or we move it somewhere else that sits in a storage facility and you rent that for the next 20 years. So what we try to do is we try to be logical about it. We know the statistics of the area. I'm an engineer, so I can't help it. So I can tell you how many months of inventory at each price range in the areas we work. So we'll try to make a good decision and provide information so that the client can make a good decision. So, again, we work by referral. We don't get paid until the job's done, and we're fine with that. So that's where we're at. I'm in the real estate business.
Renee, we'll finish this with carrying
Yes.
transition. I was just going to tell you that the reason I'm so passionate about carrying transition is my first move was my in-laws. It took me 16 months as a sandwich generation of trying to deal with my kids in travel sports and work and then my mother-in-law was a faller. She fell when she was in our home, so we had to get her to assisted care, and she fell there, which meant we were in the emergency room like twice a week. So 16 months. It took me 2 months when my parents. You do it differently than that.
Yes, we do. We like to do it, like I said, I've done houses as quick as within 2 weeks, and literally from the time that we go in, and we will literally go in and I'll meet with them, we'll find out, and just depending on the urgency. A lot of times, I'm seeing the aftermath of when they haven't used your services, and I've seen the people who, the cats have gone all over the place. I've seen, where, newspapers are stacked up, the papers are everywhere. So sometimes we're walking into those homes, and a lot of times that's happening when the family members are, because now everybody's kids are all over the country. They're not even here in the state to watch out. So, phone call, everything sounds great, because parents always like to minimize the struggles and maximize the successes that they have. So it's amazing to me when I meet with the kids, and they're like, oh my gosh, I had no idea what was going on here. We will end up, a lot of times, because there's like over 240 of our franchises, so if I have kids that are someplace else in another state and they're trying to move their family members to be close by them, I'll call the carrying transitions in that state or city or find one that's close by so that I can coordinate with them. So we are working together to get them from here to there. We'll literally go into the home. If they're packing and moving, we'll go through. We do colored stickers, so okay, this is a keep, I want to take this, I want to take this, I want to take this, and I'll look at it going, oh, wait a minute, too much stuff, let's back that off. What's your favorites? And we'll work with them to try to get them to come to that place where what they're moving is appropriate for the size that they're moving to. And then we also, like I said, go to the sticker color coordinating system so that we can send off the things that they want to send to different places. When we're going through this process, it is literally I'm in contact with whoever I'm working with, if it's the kids or if it's the client. I want them to know everything that's going on through the whole process. I am hands-on in every single transaction that we have. We're probably trying to do like about 4 to 6 moves a month. And that is where I am constantly popping in and knowing exactly what's going on, overseeing. I have team leads that go in and they are overseeing everything that's happening. When we're going in, if they want us, and based on their budget or what their needs are, we will go in and we will pack and get everything sent off. We'll organize it with the movers. We will get it there so they can. And I've literally done this where I've had somebody come and they've taken their loved one and they've gone off, and I have packed the house. They've gone off and done a little trip. And I've had everything set up at the other end. So when they come home, it's like, I'm in. We've had family members who've done that even when they're moving into a community, a senior community, so they can go off and they know that's going on, but they don't want to deal with the stress. It's just so overwhelming. They go in, they look, and they're just like, what am I gonna? And that's the big, huge stress that we like to take off of their plates. Is we don't want you to worry about where it's gonna go. We'll take care of it, we'll get you what you need so that you're having what you want. People are more important than the stuff. And that's the hardest thing to get people to realize, because they get to the point where you get so attached, because this is a memory for this is a memory for that. But you don't need the memories of people. So when you get to the point where, like I said, I'm walking into homes and they're not even letting people come into their homes because it's gotten so out of control and everything's gotten overwhelming, and then they're embarrassed, and I get it. I'm like, they didn't live like this, their kids will be back going, we didn't live like this, I swear, I didn't was raised. I was like, I know, I get it. You're not the only ones. Everybody has that same issue. A lot of people, because everybody wants to stay independent as long as they can. And I'm always saying to these people, get out there and you move, because the only way that you're going to keep moving tomorrow is if you move today. So you've got to make sure that you're keeping yourself as healthy as you can, which is making sure that you're keeping a regular schedule, keeping that regular diet, regular thing. And that's the big thing to promote to the seniors, because you don't want them, I mean, like I said, feeling like they're getting set off aside and doing it. That's why I love the communities. The senior communities are now providing all these opportunities and activities and stuff, and I keep telling my clients, I'm like, we're not putting you into a room where you're sitting by yourself. There's steps and stages that you can take, and you can go as fast as you want, you can go as slow as you want. It's your choice, but you can make it happen. So we like to do all those things to help them. We go in, like I said, we're working with different budgets. I want to make sure that it's going to meet their needs. A lot of times when we're doing these estate sales, depending on the house size and stuff, because everybody's different, so we'll go in and we'll give them an estimate saying, this is what we think you can make from this house. And we're going to tell them, what's going to be the best move for you? Is it going to be the best for you to do a clean out and then to donate these things? Is it going to be best for you to sell this and have a 2-day sale? Is it going to be best for you to have a 1-day sale? What's the way that you're going to be able to maximize the most of your money? A lot of times we like to do the estate sale so we can clean out the house, have an empty home, and pay for the move. And then if they get a check at the end, that's great. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. Honestly, I've never had somebody have to write me a check. It's always been me writing them a check or them breaking even, just depending on the amount and the volume of what they have, which is really a nice thing because, once again, everybody's trying to make their money last as long as they can and to get the most of their money and to make it so that they can actually transfer and transition into the next stage without losing anything. So we want to gain people relations and connections with people and lose the stuff that we don't need anymore. So, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer you. But like I said, I love working with seniors. I thoroughly enjoy every single one of them. The more cantankerous, the happier I am. I don't know what it is, but I love difficult people. I don't know why, I just do. That's why I have happy employees, because they're like, they like people. I mean, like they're like, they know when we're going in, this is going to be. I want them to bring that attitude that comes in that keeps them lifted. So they know when they're walking in, I'm like, I don't care. Our clients can do no wrong to me. As far as I'm concerned, we're there to make their life easier.
Any other questions? Anybody? Well, we're at 7:30, so we are at our time thing. Most of the people have stuff over there in the corner for their particular companies and stuff, so you can get that. I'm sure people are around. We've got some things over here for Renee, I'll get over here for you. So, I'm sure people will hang around and ask some questions if you have some.